So, welcome to another episode of Coffee and Careers Sips of Knowledge. My name is Joe Hayes, Associate Director at the Academic and Career Development Center at UNO. Today, I'm joined by our special guest, Anthony Carlson, Lead Application Developer at Farm Credit Service of America. Welcome, Anthony.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Appreciate asking me to be a guest today.
So today's topic, we're going to be focusing on technology, how to thrive in the tech space, goals and strategies for success, maybe dispelling some myths, things of that. But first, as we get started, to be true to the segment's name, we're going to have to showcase that we are in fact drinking coffee. And Anthony, what do you got with us today?
All right. I just got some decaf in my UNO cup. I'm not a caffeine drinker, but I do like the taste of just regular coffee.
Excellent. Well, thanks for sharing there. And likewise myself, it is the afternoon, so I'm not going decaf, but I am drinking out of my Alcatraz Resort and Spa mug. So I think it's kind of fitting right now how many of us are working at home, kind of feeling in that isolation right now. And I was looking at this morning, and I was like, how fitting to be drinking out of something and talking coffee and careers with you today here, Anthony. So, Anthony, thanks for being here again. Kick us off with telling us a little bit about maybe Farm Credit and what it is that you do there.
All right. Farm Credit Services of America is a financial lender to rural America. That means we serve Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, Wyoming, and we also have a strategic alliance with Kansas. If you want to look at it from a different perspective, anything that can help serve rural America and agriculture from seeds, land, operating, Farm Credit is there to provide financial services.
So when many people hear the words farm and agricultural and things like that, they may not initially think of technology. Is that right? And if so, like what do you do on the tech space then?
All right. So from the technical space, I would say what's happening at Farm Credit and also what's happening in I would say the Midwest when you start not just our area is if you can figure out how to make something from a technical perspective work in rural America, you can make it work anywhere. And what's happening is over the last probably 5 years, there's been abundance of companies, startups who have been trying to. So instead of trying to stay in the big city and hit the consumer space, they're trying to figure out how can you make a product work. And this is everything from drones to my favorite is out of Lincoln doing the Fitbit for cattle. How can you monitor an animal's health and be able to do something and help and know that you may not have a good data connection, right? How do you solve those problems? That's what's happening in the ag space right now. You also hear a lot about autonomous people trying to, have their own machines because it is so hard to find labor out in rural America too. When you start getting into some of these lands or operations, you just need people. But there's a big push on autonomous.
So in your role as lead application developer, walk me through what exactly does that mean?
All right. So as a lead application developer at Farm Credit Service America, that means for the team I'm on and the product I'm on, I help do everything from make sure that are we solving the business problem for the product we're trying to develop. The first thing I always ask myself, is it something that you should build that you use our computer science skills and try to code and do it yourself, or is it something you buy and integrate with because of things like cost of ownership, right? It's a trade-off about what you do. Um, so that's one of my first parts. My second part is how can I be a good leader to get other people on our team on the same page for decisions we want to make from a technical perspective. How do I work across the floor or with other team members in different roles to make sure that they understand what we're doing? So somewhere between communication, collaboration, that's a huge part. Um, and then if I'm lucky enough, like you want to see everyone else, I get to grab the keyboard and open up my favorite code editor, and I get to write code. Hopefully that's where I get to be most of the day, but a lot of times it's trying to make sure we're following the right steps and trying to make sure my team, which has been anywhere from 4 or 5 people to 12, trying to make sure everyone's on the same page.
So it sounds like there's coding, there's communication, there's so much going on in kind of the day-to-day life of Anthony Carlson at Farm Credit. What was that moment like for you when you decided that kind of the technology space is what you wanted to do? We have a lot of students when they come into a university, they are often thinking about what field do I want to get into, what do I want to study? What was that path for you?
Yeah. So uh, so when I first went to college, um, I wanted to be a PE teacher. I wanted to. I was actually wanted to be in secondary education, and I wanted to play kickball and all of these things. But uh, the turning light was um, um, I wasn't very good at those classes. I wasn't very good at biology class, and I wasn't very good at human growth and development and other things. But what I was good at was I was good at math. I was good at, um, as I always tell people, some time along in your high school career or college, you had to do a class where you had to do f of x equals something, g of x equals something, right? You had to use substitute x, and they called it a function. Well, um, I was given a computer, and I had a basic programming book, and I started reading through it, and I went, this is the same math I did. You take a function and you make it do something. And because I was lucky enough to, I had my own like 2-ton computer back in 1990 something. Uh, I just got into it, and that's when I decided to change my major and start taking at that time what were considered computer science classes.
So you're going off of your strengths. You're realizing some of these courses maybe not as engaging. I kind of struggle with, but these other things are up my alley, up my interest, and maybe that's a journey I kind of want to go down. So kind of fast
Yeah,
forward then.
uh, I, I
Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, no. What I was just thinking of, um, this is what I've seen the rise at UNO about the. I can put my name on it right now, but
Right. So there's so many different programs out there that can lead you,
yeah,
one of many different degree paths here. And say we're focusing
correct.
on the technology aspect of it. So how important is technology in your line of work?
Um, I would say, um, well, it's extremely important um, because any if you go back to somewhere in the late 1990s, where people started going a business. You needed a website, right? You needed these type of things, and what happened was they used to talk. Well, we need a technology is kind of the overhead. So you had these people like myself that could program or set up servers or this. So we had to have good technical skills. Today, if I was thinking about everything going on for the next 10 years, I would say that technology is slowly bleeding in, that every degree is going to be considered a technical degree. That it's going to be some are you going to be a creator or a true user, but when you use it, you're actually going to know how to integrate with other software. Take like I'm thinking like a journalist. That there's so much information out there that I'm going to have to learn some type of SQL skill, big data skill, to be able to go out and search that data and understand what it means to go get the data I want. And it's not just about writing a journal anymore. It's about actually understanding the data behind the scenes, internet protocols, how to formulate good reports, and then how can I use that to make some other type of data science prediction. I mean, and I'm talking that this could be a marketing person, not a computer science.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is so accurate, how technology then bleeds into really every aspect of the workforce. So, whether you are a computer science major or a theater major, you're going to be a user at minimum of technology to meet business needs, et cetera, is kind of what I'm hearing from you, Anthony, here. So what are some of those greatest challenges in the technology space? And like, how do you know what you're doing is successful?
Um, so I would say right now, the greatest technology challenge is how fast can you get, if you're trying to create a new product, how fast can you get it to market, and then how fast can you adapt to the changes. And what I mean is, if you're going to get into a technical where you want to create the next new product, um, well, it's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of time. So how fast can you get a product out there that people will use, and then keep adding on to it? And I think of all sorts of things like Gmail. When Gmail first came out, it was invite only, and they couldn't even guarantee that your email would come.
I
But
didn't know that.
yeah, and then after that, after you kept inviting people to use it, they kept putting more features on it. All right. Well, that's hard. That's easy to do when you have people who are in venture capitalists, investors who are investing money. You can take that approach. So how does a UNO student go out and do that? And that's a business challenge, but it's also a technical about how fast can you integrate existing technology to solve something? How fast can you create something to would it make sense to, from a technology standpoint, to get really good at one thing? I don't know that. It's almost like, if I was going to say the skill is how much breadth of things do I know, and then when that time when I need to react, get in the depth of it. So this is it's almost like someone probably said these same things like 20 years ago about what it means. But being technical, yeah, it's having that good idea. But I always hear that fast beats slow, not big eats small.
Right. So think back to maybe when you were 18 and you were first entering kind of the technology space with your major first. How has it changed your mindset back then to where you are now, working in the space for some time? What has changed, and what's different from before what you thought to the actual?
Hmm. So what I couldn't do, say 20 years ago, I couldn't pull out my device and get information in context right then, right now, when I want it. I had to go to the school library or the campus library and log on to some terminal and try to figure out how to get through there. Or I had to open up my Netscape browser on my 56K dial-up modem and sit there and wait to see if I can see some image or context.
That I can still hear the dial up that's piercing to my ears when I think back to it.
Yeah, and so what now, between somewhere between trying to find all that data, uh, on my phone, I can get whatever service there is online right now. And so what that means is, do I know what I'm looking for? Do I know how to search? Right? That how to search meant opening up a book and trying to look at the appendix and trying to figure out what was that keyword so I can go to that page. Now, search means I get a million hits and I have to open up these sites. And the reason I say that is, so from a technical perspective, um, I don't know if I'm any better about trying to get that information, such as how to do queries, how to actually read and get to what I want. The the problem is I have so much of it now. How can I get narrow focus? So from a technical perspective, it's the same thing. How can I get narrow focus to be good at programming, to be good at servers, to be good at technical support, requirements, analyzing, testing, uh, any other of these functions, security, cybersecurity is a huge now. Like I 20 when I first started 18, I'd have no idea that all those things were a thing. You were just a computer science major. Now there's these interdisciplines, a lot of depth, and now it's like, how do I get there from a technical perspective to say that I'm technical?
So you're saying the field has changed a little bit in 15, 20 years. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's probably some type of emotional technical counselor out there now, just to help people with all that's coming at me. Is it really software that makes me technical? Is it the ability to develop, to write code, right? Based on some of our computer science, is that what makes you technical, or is it ability to understand how all these things integrate
Yeah.
that makes you technical? Where before, I think maybe that's another way to say it. Back in the 90s, what made you technical was the ability to program. A lot of it was because no one, people had websites that you can buy for $1.99 now or get for free. You had to pay a couple $1,000s to get a domain and a website and a server and all these things, and if you didn't know how to set it up, you're wasting money.
So true. So Anthony, you are such a good friend of the university. You're on campus quite a bit, recruiting for be it internship opportunities or full-time positions as well. When you're talking to students about potential opportunities at your company, what are some things that students should know that would help them stand out?
All right. No, I mean that's a great question, about how does someone stand out so you can get a interview, a position right there. So the first thing that I personally look for is someone that has passion. And what I mean is, do you have passion? If you're a developer, do you have passion about making the code that you work make someone's life better? I go to that a lot in terms of when I ask somebody, it says, okay, why do you want to be a developer? and hopefully the first things I want to make a lot of money, right? Or a lot of it's I it's almost like the day when I have my first book, I see the power that if I can create something, could I make someone's life better? So that's kind of the high level personal thing that I like to look for, is people who are going, hey, uh, I'm volunteering my time uh, for this nonprofit because I want to help this cause.
So,
Um,
so are they kind of like inward focused on themselves, their own development, or maybe kind of
yeah,
really focused how they can help a company, a mission, a cause, a project, something like that?
yeah, and the reason I like to look at that is when you look at recruiting on the campus, mostly everybody has taken the same type of courses, right? And we need those courses because they help develop our skills. So I take my programming one, my programming two, operating systems, whatever that means in the computer science space. But am I hopefully I'm not just doing the coursework and that's where it is. Hopefully I'm doing the coursework, and maybe I'm running my I'm making a website because I really love my pet and I want my pet to have all sorts of video, and I want to be able to tweet to it, and I want it to chat bot with me, and all these things, because I have something now I can show and build, right? There's an output, just like art, there's an output. So those are some of the things. So when I look at your resume, I look at kind of the bottom where we've kind of put like those activities, and I start asking, what did you do? And it's awesome that you volunteer, but did you do anything to help out your local nonprofit? Uh, um, um, I think there was a story one time when I met a computer science major, and he was just talking about his courses, and I went, all right, and then out of nowhere, he started telling me about, oh yeah, in my spare time, I like to help the robotics team, and we're like programming these robots to go up a mountain, and we're doing it because we're trying to see if we can help someone when there's a vehicle can't get there. And I'm like, that's nowhere on your resume. How why isn't that? He said, well, I didn't think my passion's very important. Hmm.
I love those stories. Building a robot to, was it find people stranded on mountains?
Yeah, just to be able to climb mountains and try to figure out how can you get in spaces, because it was robots or drones, so they picked robots just because that was something. But but nowhere on their resume, all it was I took CS whatever, CS this, and so when I was asking questions, I had to dig for that, where maybe that should have been most of his resume.
Yeah. So words to our viewers and listeners. Showcase those unique selling points that you have. So outside of just the courses, which are terrific, I'm hearing from Anthony here that looking for what are you doing to go above and beyond is what I'm hearing here. So Anthony, then you're talking to somebody. You're like, this person is worthy of an interview. I want to get to know the individual just a bit more. Um, how do interviews work in the technology space? Are they different, um, similar to other interviews? Like, talk to me about the interview process.
So what I've been part of the interview for intern positions, mostly, and a lot of them deal with uh, trying to find the story of of how do you work with other people. uh and so this is where I would say that we're almost looking for that those type of leadership attributes. uh how well can you make the people around you better, such as the story about uh, uh, my project team was lost and we didn't know what to do. So I helped lay out a plan. I got them together. We found out it was our meeting times that was, that story about how they worked. Because when you work at a company such as Farm Credit or another one in Omaha, you're working with other people. So we're always thinking about, how well can you put the needs of others first? How well can you work and be able to have that probably that strongest characteristic is how well can you listen to somebody? So that's kind of the intern, as I would say, that we're looking for. When you start looking at those graduates who are coming out, who are there, um, a lot of places like Farm Credit is that you start getting some very developer centric questions, or you may even get a code sample. Like I'll say, Joe, and show me how you can pull all your favorite tweets off Twitter, and we'll ask you to come in and kind of explain your code. How do you work for? But even when we're looking at that technical, what we're also looking for is, well, how did you solve the problem? Right?
Yeah.
Did you just get your keyboard, or did you go, hey, uh, am I allowed to do this in any of the language I prefer? Am I allowed to go out and find someone who's already done this and modify theirs? Right? There's a thinking process to it. That's kind of the next section when you start going from intern to probably full time. Is I'm seeing more and more. We want to see hands on how well you can code and what's that thought process to get a problem solved.
Got it. So it's kind of to summarize that. So kind of maybe for the intern level, it's less of the technical, it's more the communication type um, skills you're evaluating. But then when it comes to those full-time opportunities, maybe even later in career, they need to know the technical, and you're assessing that in various capacities, right?
Yes.
Excellent. So, Anthony, just understanding our time here today, are there any last thoughts that you think would be good for a viewer or listener to know kind of about maybe getting into the technology space and succeeding? Any final thoughts?
Hmm. All right. So my first one is I think the biggest one now when I was talking about breadth is your humility, to be able to go, yeah, I don't know everything. Uh, 20 years ago, I think most of the time there was like one book, and that one book kind of got you through whatever you're doing. Now there's like 50 things that go into our integrated life through technology, people, software that you have to understand, and that's probably my biggest thing that I've learned is that no, it's okay to say I don't know. I
You're telling me a review of Technology for Dummies would not be sufficient nowadays.
No, yeah, it's like, um, but what I do know that what hasn't changed are is uh, from a technical perspective, the people that can really work on their communication, try to get their ideas, the people who think customer centric, right? What problem or why am I doing this, and then what technology can fit in that space, because not one size fits all. Those are the things that I really wish I had a better handle on, where I tried to know everything because I wanted that's what I thought, where now I think it's okay to say I don't know, let me go find out, because the answer is out there.
You don't need to know everything, and I think that's a great skill set that would most likely apply across industry, but something that we completely need to be reminded of. Anthony, I just want to thank you for joining us today on another episode of Coffee and Career Sips of Knowledge. I think the information that you were able to share has been extremely helpful, and I just want to thank you for being a great partner and friend to the show here.
Awesome. No, I appreciate you reaching out.